Welcome to Brand Matters Live. This is Vincenzo Landino. Happy New Year. It's going to be an amazing 2017 here at Aftermarq Interactive with Enlightened Audiovisual. My co-host Rob Hicks joins me today as we discuss platforms that decide or drive consumer decisions. Really, there's so much to talk about on this topic today and every day, really. But the more we see different platforms coming out, the more questions brands have as to how they can actually use these platforms to influence their consumers or their audience to purchase. Rob, how you doing today, bud?
What's up, V? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, my friend. How you been?
I've been doing good. Been doing a lot of thinking and talking with business. I mean, I spent a lot of time, but I had fun over the Christmas break in terms of
Good.
getting out in the field, talking to local businesses, talking to tons of young people about their consuming buying habits, which I think, kind of brought us to this show, right? In terms of its topic of the day.
It's a show that really needs to happen, right? These are conversations that need to happen. Brands, especially coming off the holiday season where get that frenzy, that holiday rush. How do you change it up for the new year? Now we're in January. There's the January, February, March kind of lull going on. And how do brands invest in something that's going to work? And I think that's what we strive to ensure, or we strive to answer here at Brand Matters. I want to welcome, Brian Fanzos watching.
Hey, Brian.
Brian Fanzos, Sam Gonzalez are watching.
Sam. He actually tried to call me right before the broadcast. I'm like, because he's in the process of moving his house.
Sorry, in the middle of something. Terry Johnson also joining us. Please share with your audiences, especially if you are interested or you have friends, people in your network that run brands, run a business, that are trying to figure out how to make sense of live video, social media platforms, and really what is going on behind the scenes. Today, again, I want to bring up that we're talking about platforms that drive consumer decisions. Let's start a little bit with, let's define the players in the space. Let's talk a little bit about these platforms. First and foremost is Facebook, where many of you are watching. Mm-hmm. Maybe not first and foremost, but we'll mention Facebook, where many are watching. There's also YouTube, which is a favorite of us here at Aftermarq and Enlightened Audiovisual.
Oh, yeah.
YouTube, there's YouTube Live, but there's YouTube the way we know it. There's Twitter. We have Instagram. We have Snapchat. We have Twitch. But we'll stick with kind of like the four major players for the sake of the conversation: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Rob, what from the production standpoint, who offers the highest quality of video, period, right now?
So, we haven't really paid attention, or you and I haven't really focused on this over the last 6 months or so, but I kind of had an epiphany. I'll show you guys some kind of tongue-in-cheek content that Vincenzo and I were playing with last night. So last night, just kind of goofing around, we were playing with 1080p streaming. And, we've, over the last 6 months, we've been driving all of our content at 720p 30, mainly because that's the limitation of Facebook and Twitter. And we really, at that early on, had kind of forgot about the amazing utility of YouTube with respect to being able to do 1080p and now 4K live. So this picture that you see here was a shot that I did live in 1080p 60 frames. And when I saw it on the television screen, I'm like, oh my God, this is infinitely clearer than the replays that I do on Facebook and Twitter. So, it's not really a debate of which one's better. I mean, certainly from a quality perspective, the only choice, as I'm aware, that you have in Facebook is 720p 30. Same thing with Twitter, and I'm sure that that's going to change. But for now, YouTube does have the 1080p capability, and it is crystal clear on a big screen television. So why does this matter? Well, it depends on how people are consuming their content and how they're consuming their content to make a buy decision. And, so one of the things you and I were talking about in terms of both things that you and I bought over the Christmas holiday was cameras, right?
Yep.
And so you and I were talking earlier this morning about, well, what led us to buy. Yeah, yeah. So here's your toy, and here's my new big gun.
Yes.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And for you guys watching in Facebook and Twitter, this is also available to view in 1080p 60 on YouTube right now. So the point is, how did we come to these buy decisions? Was it because we bumped into a Twitter video? Was it because we bumped into a YouTube video? Or was it because we bumped into a YouTube video? And I think the point is that we didn't bump into any of them. We actively went and searched for reviews and multiple reviews, right? So the keyword is search. You and I decided at some point independently that we wanted to buy an object. So the first instinct that we had was to go to search. And people don't associate Facebook or Twitter necessarily with search. In my opinion, Facebook, and it's kind of funny because when I talk to my kids, and I've got kids from 13 years old all the way to 16, not that that's necessarily a huge range, but the point is that in their minds and among their friends that I talked to over the Christmas break, Facebook is their big inside joke is that Facebook is, if you want to know what was trending 3 months ago, watch Facebook today, which I thought was just an odd comment that was resounded by many of the people that I spoke with over the weekend. So what do you think?
No, I think that's a fantastic point. I mean, the fact that your son, who's 16 years old, made that comment, 16, right? Your son's 16, or is it your daughter 16?
Jordan 16.
Your son's 16, right? So the fact that he made that comment is like, it kind of blows me away because of the way they are looking at it. And we hear a lot about, first of all, I want to welcome Patricia Summer to the show, Nazim, April Roga, Terry Johnson, Brian Fanzo, and Sam Gonzalez are still watching as well. A happy new year to you in Italy, Nazim, and the rest of you as well. Thank you for tuning into the show. Please share wherever you're watching. If you're on YouTube, if you are on Facebook, please share this out. I think that hearing that from a 16-year-old when we are in the marketing world right now, we're hearing a lot about, well, millennials and the generation after the millennials. They're so important. They're the ones we need to reach. They're the ones we need to tap into. And when they are saying something like Facebook is a place to kind of, for old people to go and play, and for, you want to see what was trending a month ago, go on there. That's a huge indicator to me, right? And like you, I did a lot of video watching on YouTube over the break, more so than I have in the past. I think being engaged to a YouTuber has spurned that, but I also started really paying attention to what was shared with me from those that are not in marketing at all. How are people sharing when they want to purchase things, right? When someone wants to buy something, what links are they sending me to show me something, right? And time again, I get links to two places. Either Instagram for a photo if they're looking to buy things like shoes or an outfit or a Star Wars mug. But time and time again, YouTube links, if I go through my text messages right now through my buddy who is the least tech savvy individual in the world, he's a watchmaker. He sends me YouTube videos for everything from cars to TVs, TV reviews, tech reviews, not tech reviews, but like gear reviews of random stuff, cooking shows, cooking recipes. I'm so blown away as to how overwhelmingly powerful YouTube is. And it almost does so silently, right? Because we don't talk about it as much, or I feel like it's maybe not being talked about as much. And so, it is just really, really, really interesting to me. So I'm on par with you, buddy, right now. YouTube has a lot of power when it comes to consumer buying decisions. And I know we want to talk about it a little more, and you've showed a little bit already of how you're consuming it on your television. There's a YouTube button on. Amy and I bought a new Sony TV over the holidays because TVs are dirt cheap now, right? We've got a brand new 4K Sony television, and it has all the apps built in. And what's the first thing that's there? YouTube and Netflix. They have dedicated buttons for YouTube and Netflix. And you're showing, smart TV, a Samsung television with a smart hub there. They've got Facebook, Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, Skype, and whatnot. And they go, there's other things there. You got ESPN, Sports Center, USA Today. But I don't know how many people are using Facebook on their television. I've never seen anyone pull up Facebook on their TV. Now, the other day I did watch Brian Fanzo, who may or may not still be watching. I watched Brian Fanzo do a live podcast, and I watched it after the fact on the TV. But it was nowhere near the quality. This is no knock on you, Brian, but it was nowhere near the quality of YouTube streams. And Amy and I are regularly streaming 4K shows, 4K. We had a 4K Yule log going, while we were during the holidays. We had a 4K Yule log on the TV and stuff. So, YouTube. If you're not paying attention to it, I think it's subconsciously like that place you go to watch videos, right? It becomes it's almost second nature. I mean, it is the second largest search engine in the world behind its mommy, Google. Welcome to the show, KP Kelly, Chris Velarde. You guys are awesome. Miss Finch is in the show as well. Happy New Year. Thanks for watching us. I'd love to hear what the audience has to say. And I want to pose this question to you all. What are you currently, or even in the past, if you paid attention to these things, what has influenced your buying decisions? Was it a post on Facebook? Was it an Instagram video or an Instagram post? Was it a Snapchat? Was it a YouTube video? Where did you do your searching? Where did you search for what you wanted to purchase? Was it on YouTube, Google, Facebook? I don't think people are using Facebook in that way, but I'd love to hear. And I'd love specific answers of things that you've purchased based on online searches and where you did those searches. So Rob, let's do a little exercise right now. I'm kind of springing this one on you because it just came to my head. Let's do the last 3 things that we've purchased, you and I, and where we search for them. Sound good? All right, go. You first.
So they're all YouTube. I mean, it's interesting because when I ask myself the question of what have I ever purchased as a result of watching anything other than YouTube, there isn't anything. I mean, I purchase things because of Google search, where I've gone to websites and done, and watched their videos or gone through their statistics and things like that, and YouTube. I mean, so it's almost, and I don't want this to be a show about beating up Facebook, because that's not the intent. I mean, you and I both are trying to figure out on behalf of brands where to spend your effort and your energy. I mean, and we're already, proving the ability to push to all 3 is technically possible, and we do that all the time. But in terms of, focusing your efforts, if you're a brand, on where do you mine for customers, where do you deliver content where they're going to be looking, I think an example might be is that I see, if in terms of like an analogy, I would say that Facebook and Twitter are almost like a yard sale sign. It's temporary. It's many times spontaneous. In other words, like when people do yard sales, mostly speaking, they don't tell people way in advance. They'll get up early Saturday morning with that cardboard sign, and they'll start, hitting the neighborhoods and posting it. And then, so thus their potential audience are only those people that happen to wake up that Saturday morning and drive by the sign. So they miss all of their geographic area, right?
Yep.
So to finish the analogy, I would say that if Facebook and Twitter were like yard signs, then YouTube would be more like a billboard, right? It's published for a long time. It's bigger, I guess I don't know if this is kind of a stretch on the analogy, but the billboard is bigger, brighter, clearer. So, yeah. But again, I mean, for sure, there's value in doing Facebook and Twitter. Absolutely. I mean, we've seen that because that's generally where we get the most live interaction because it's spontaneous. But for search, if you're looking for something, you can't beat number one and number two.
Yep. So I'll be completely honest. My last three purchases, we just bought a Sony RX 100 5 Mark 5, whatever they call it, for vlogging. In addition to our DSLRs, we wanted a faster focusing 4K point and shoot for vlogging for this video series Amy and I are doing. And I saw it. Roberto Blake had purchased one. Roberto Blake is a YouTuber, good friend of the show. And then I then went and watched other YouTubers that were using the same camera. And I showed you some footage, Rob, and I was blown away. And I said, this is amazing. We went on the spot. We worked out right after we ordered it, had it go to Best Buy, and we went to go pick it up. So
right.
It was a combination of, but it wasn't Facebook. I don't know where I saw Roberto have it, but I know Roberto's a YouTuber, and I went and looked up, supporting examples on YouTube. We bought the television, the Sony XBR, whatever, 4K TV. That was all based on actually some YouTube reviews. So I did that. And what was the last thing I bought? It was probably
the drone. Well, you got the drone as a Christmas present, right?
Oh, well, yeah, the drone was a Christmas present, but I watched a ton of YouTube videos on the Phantom 4 Pro. So,
to be able to tell Amy that that's exactly what you wanted.
I actually showed Amy. I remember showing Amy some videos of the Phantom 4 footage, and I was like, "Oh my god, I want this one day! Like,
right.
We're gonna buy it at some point." And I got it.
I'm gonna want this one day, like Christmas, this Christmas.
Yeah, crazy. So let's turn to the comments. Let's take a look here. All right, let's see. April says she mostly uses YouTube for DIY and product review, especially tech-related topics. Brian Fanzo said he saw my tweet of his podcast on a smart TV. Roberto Blake asked if he influenced my buying decision on the camera. Totally.
Nice.
Patricia uses laptop and mobile 100%. She has not turned on a TV in ages. Interesting. I'd love to see an age demographic breakdown on this stuff as well. At some point, we should conduct some research, Rob. Stephanie says Pinterest, Google, and Amazon. So my question to you, Stephanie, is Google's great, right? But are you just in Google, or do you search, do you watch videos from YouTube at all? Because we know that when you type in Google, the YouTube results pop up. Brian Fanzo says he's researching his next camera on my website. Thank you.
Nice.
Amazon for reviews, and as an Amazon Prime member, also Amazon Fresh for home delivered goods. Interesting. So Amazon's become a force. Now we know Amazon also does have Prime
Twitch.
And video, and we as creators can upload to that. It's a little bit more of a hassle though, because they want it to be very professional. They want captions. Anybody watching on Prime that flips on their TV or wherever they're watching, it needs to look like a legit production, right? They want it to be a legit offering.
So let me show the viewers this. So this is something that I kind of did tongue in cheek yesterday on the last Brand Matters show that we did, and it's. Number one, we certainly are doing what we're advocating in our shop in Gaithersburg. I mean, we roll our content. We basically take all the shows that we've done, compile them into a playlist, and run them 24/7. Yeah. But what I thought was interesting about this particular photo was, that while we're not necessarily trying to compete with television, because that's a battle we just can't win, right? I mean, because they've got infinite supplies of cash to be able to throw at multi-million-dollar studios. But the point is that it's close enough where, as you can see here, that if you're a brand, why, if all things being equal, if you're a big, let's say, enterprise brand, you probably are spending upwards of $15,000 or $20,000 maybe per month on cable bills across your enterprise. if you're using it for digital signage. I mean, and when I say that kind of monthly recurring bill, I'm talking about multiple facilities with multiple offices in multiple countries. But it's just as easy nowadays to create your own content. And now you're controlling what your customers see in your space, whether it's a retail space or an office space like ours. Why wouldn't you make your own? I mean, there was a day and time, and I think we said this in the last episode, where, most people thought that CNN was just a crazy concept. Like, who's going to watch 24-hour news? And obviously Ted proved him wrong, right? I mean, now there's easily 5 or 6 24-hour news cycles that play. Now, it's another argument as to whether people are actually watching them anymore. But
no, for sure.
Ted Turner proved that he had the idea of 24-hour news, and he was right.
Yeah, we're definitely in an age now where I think anybody can create, and we learned that through this election cycle. I think more than anything, of how much people are trusting or not trusting,
right?
The stable news networks, the ABCs, the Fox, the CNN. Like, people are very wary of, what am I watching? I would rather talk to, because listen, let's face it, all the chatter, like chatting about what, whoever, presidential election or anything that's happening, whether it's politics or your TV show, talking about it, no one's really responding to you, right? No one is going to come back and give you any interaction. So how do people want to watch it? They would rather watch people they can talk to. They're going to respond, because that's kind of that's the interaction they're having anyway. So why not be able to throw it up on their television and watch it, or why not be able to watch it in higher quality, higher production? But again, we're talking about platforms that are driving the consumer decisions. What's really making people change their buying habits? And this is a discussion that has come up in some circles lately. I do want to welcome Jenny Quinn to the show. Stephanie Brian Fenzel's still in the show as well. Ursula Ringham is
Ursula.
here.
Happy New Year.
As well. Ursula, our friend over at SAP. Happy New Year to all of you. If I missed anybody, welcome to the show. I'm trying to read the comments here. Please feel free to interact and engage on this. Love to hear what it is that drives your buying habits. Brian Fanzo says, watching on YouTube and clicking from YouTube should be thought of as two different aspects, right? Instagram ads, if I like it, I click and purchase from there, but never gone to YouTube show notes to make a purchase. That's interesting that you say that. So I think we're talking about influence. Not that I think. The basis of this particular show or this conversation is what is influencing the buying habit, not necessarily the ease of clicking through, right? Because not everything is necessarily set up for, I click on it and I can buy it, right? Just because I clicked on an Instagram ad doesn't necessarily mean it influenced me to buy it. I know that sounds odd, but it doesn't mean that I didn't find it elsewhere. And I think with everything being so tied in, and Brian, this more than most, but data has a big part in this, and algorithms that are reading all of our searches everywhere. If I searched for something on YouTube or Google, and then 3 days later or 3 seconds later, it pops up on my Instagram feed or my Facebook feed, was it Facebook that influenced you, or was it the YouTube video that you watched for that? And I think there's a big question, or there is a distinction for sure. But whether you're reading it in the show notes or whether you're just watching the YouTube video, you are still on YouTube. And that's really all that matters, I think. So the conversation that Rob, the one that you and I were having this morning about influencers and these platforms and how are they really working for consumers. And you and I had the conversation of, does a video or an influencer that, and now again, this is from the brand perspective. So as a brand, when they're looking to, here we are in January, they're budgeting, right? Now is budget time of the year. It probably already passed, or they're already approving the budgets at this point, depending on when their fiscal year is. But they're saying, okay, we want to hire this agency, this influencer, this production team, whatever it is, to do things on this platform, that platform, that platform, right? Is that fair statement of how it works, right? We'll say, like, let's just break it down. That's pretty, get up on screen with me there. I don't want to be the only one on screen. Let's get both on screen.
Well, so I'll make myself full screen. I don't know that we've been approached by brands asking which platform. I certainly, over the Christmas break, went to a lot of more small businesses because certainly, the first thing that we had tried to kind of angle for early in the summer and going into the fall were the big brands, right? I mean, because everybody wants the big brands because that's where I guess the bigger the budgets are. But yeah, I live in Ellicott City, Maryland, and for those of you that don't know, Ellicott City, the historic district, got slammed with a massive, they called it 100-year flood in the early part of July. And it literally just destroyed most of Main Street. So much so that the bottom of the hill, that some of the stores had up to 12 feet of water that were in them. So in any event, it took about 2 months before they even opened the town back because they had to rip up the streets, support the foundations, etc. So, but the point is that I went back over the Christmas break to kind of talk with some of the small businesses, and when I would ask them about, how are you using Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, most of them actually hardly use any. Instagram, you'd mentioned earlier, yeah, I would say that in retrospect, I was actually surprised that almost all the small businesses that I talked to used Instagram for pictures, but they weren't actively using Facebook for their business. They certainly used it for their personal stuff, but they weren't using it. And one of the things that I thought about is for YouTube, we talked earlier about it being such a search, but I think where we're at right now in time is that most people don't yet associate YouTube or Facebook with their televisions. So for the most part, it's a mobile phenomenon. But I think to the degree that we can start to, over time, train consumers that, hey, you have the ability to watch our live show on your television screen, and instead of watching, our show on your phone, use your phone as kind of your notepad to do commenting back, and then it's a really interactive experience. But that's going to take time and training the consumer to think, hey, watch these shows live, and I think we can easily take advantage of that because there's such a negative connotation for cable and satellite broadcasts now. I mean, you'd mentioned in the comments that there were several people that had said that they hadn't watched television in months. And I think it was on the last show that you were talking about the trend of people just simply canceling their cable or satellite bill and migrating towards Netflix and YouTube and online content. So yeah, we're just like in this really odd time where I think that to the degree that we can begin to train consumers to, hey, this is easy, through your Apple TV. I brought that up earlier in terms of ways that consumers can watch live content. It isn't just your phone, but we need to, as ambassadors of video, begin to train consumers and businesses that, hey, use YouTube, create shows, use Facebook, create the shows, and regularly train your audience to be able to watch them in their living rooms, not just on their mobile device.
Yeah, so there's quite a bit of conversation. I want to acknowledge the audience that is commenting here. Mike Sheehan, thanks for joining us, buddy. Jay Garrett, appreciate you watching as well. Jay says he trusts Amazon and YouTube much more for purchase influence. He also says that the last 2 Instagram ads he clicked ended up being some kind of scam, or according to the dozens of comments, a warning for there were some warnings for other buyers. Ursula brings up a really good point here. She said, over the holidays, I purchased almost all my gifts through Amazon because of Prime. I needed it within 2 days. That's what influenced my buying decision. Very, very interesting. So
the follow-up question for Ursula, though, is did she already know what she wanted? In other words, had she already done the research, and Amazon then became, okay, I know what I want, so what's the fastest way that I can get what I'm already ready to buy?
Yeah. No, that I mean that's an interesting point. We'll throw that one out there for Ursula. Hopefully, she's still watching to answer. And Brian, Brian brings up a really good point here too, and so does Jenny Quinn. Jenny Quinn says most of my buying is personal recommendations from friends, so she trusts her friends. But Brian says, how do you track influence of YouTube video that nobody purchases from? And my initial response is to say that there's links, there's annotations, cards that you can put right in a video to allow someone to purchase the product directly. But I don't think it's that nobody's buying from, right? Like there's ways to measure this kind of stuff if used properly. This goes back to a question, or this goes back to a comment that I had made in a discussion I was having, where most brands need to be set up across their funnel from top to bottom. If you are accepting leads here, you need to know how to get them through the funnel to buy. And so you can't start that funnel somewhere and not have it finish, right? Or if there's a leaky funnel, or if you have a sales funnel that you just don't have one. A lot of brands don't even have one. It's like, oh yeah, it's like putting a billboard up with no call to action, or with no way of actually knowing if that billboard is doing anything. And I don't know if Brian agrees. I don't know if anyone else has that feeling as well. But if you aren't set up for it, we could talk all day right here and it won't matter at all, because if you don't have a way to capture anything that's coming through any of these locations, whether you're on Facebook Live, whether you are on YouTube, whether you're on Snapchat, Instagram, whatever you're broadcasting to or you are posting to, if there's no way to capture that lead and then deliver them what you need them to see so that they'll buy, this is a moot point, totally moot point. Ursula said, my 12 and 10-year-old kids did the research. They sent me a list with links to Amazon. Where do they do their research? I assume YouTube. Yeah. That's all they watch. My son said, will Amazon Prime help Santa get my gifts quicker? And that's I don't have kids, but I'm assuming that's a cute comment. So some point, right, there is that value. And again, I pose the question back to Brian, of how can you say, how can you just say that, well, it works because I can track it through Facebook or through Twitter, but it's not valuable because it's on YouTube, because I can't click through, or because you're not reading the description. What's really interesting, and again, this is being newly engaged to a YouTuber and dating a YouTuber for about 2 years now, or a little under 2 years, I've learned that more people actually do read the descriptions than you would think. In fact, more people read the about section of a YouTuber that they like more than you think. Amy actually puts Easter eggs in different areas, and the amount of people that respond to them is really, really interesting to watch. Again, this is not a YouTube love fest. This is just us kind of coming to the conclusion that YouTube influences a lot more decisions than I've even thought of. If we had this conversation, Rob, if we had this conversation maybe 6 months ago and I didn't realize, I would have been like, oh, Facebook influences all my decisions.
Right. Well, but there's one point that I want to touch on with what Brian had talked about, and that is how do you track it? That's actually kind of an interesting afterthought question, because YouTubers kind of started the trend, or it was because of YouTube that people decided to do product reviews, right? Independent people that didn't have anything necessarily to do with the manufacturer. So on their own, they decided to do product reviews, and their compulsory reason for doing the videos was to be able to get viewership, not necessarily hawk products, right? So it's almost like brands in retrospect, if they could go back in 10 years, would have probably done themselves a better favor by saying, there's going to be people on YouTube that are going to review products, so we need to get in front of this. But they missed it. So now what's happened is that now you've got an abundance of reviews that many times compete against the desires and wishes of the manufacturer, right? Because the manufacturer's product's getting beat up and there's no control of it by the brand. But the other thing is that the brands aren't necessarily getting engaged with social media. So they're putting together these cinematic, epic short films, and they're cool, but they don't necessarily have the authenticity that some fun personality on YouTube has, that has no filter and basically just, you can tell, has the authenticity to say, hey, what, this product just sucks, so don't buy it. It's kind of hard for a brand to pull that off, right?
It is. I'm reading through some more comments here. Michael D. Thomas, first time I've seen him. He says, big props to Rob Hicks for keeping eye contact with the cam for us out here and others.
No.
Could and should learn proper live stream engaging etiquette standards from a professional like you, my guy. Cheers. Thanks
Checks
for
in the
watching,
mail.
Michael. Thanks for the nice comment about Rob. I am reading comments, so please keep those coming as well. Jenny Quinn says, interesting that YouTube is all Ursula's son watches. He's probably not watching his mom on Facebook.
But she said Amazon too. So I guess if Ursula's still watching, so Ursula, do your kids also engage with Twitch? Because obviously that's an Amazon-owned product. And it's really weird that Amazon hasn't done much with Twitch. Like, you would think that there would be more cross-pollination among the brands because they're co-owned. And I mean, other than us knowing from a factual standpoint that Amazon purchased Twitch, they're not doing anything necessarily with it. I mean, they've really kind of let Twitch go on its own, but there's no Amazon branding within Twitch. And it's funny because I hadn't been on Twitch in quite a while, but I got an alert saying that Ricky Prime was live last night, and I hadn't talked to him in forever. So I hopped into his gameplay Twitch, and he and I kind of hung out for a bit.
So here's a really good. So Ursula brings up a really fascinating point here, right? She said no, and I'm assuming that was to me saying her kids don't watch her on Facebook Live during her broadcast. She then said my kids just know that Amazon Prime gets us free videos and 2-day shipments. So kids just know, hey, I got to ask mom. I don't really care where it comes from. I already did the research on YouTube or wherever I saw it, Snapchat, Facebook, wherever, probably not Facebook, because that's not where the kids are, as your kids have proved. And they're just going to mom and saying, boom. So it's kind of like downstream or upstream? It's going upstream, right? This awareness with YouTube.
Yep.
Jay Garrett says, my 20-year-old only consumes Reddit, Twitch, YouTube, and Netflix. My 16-year-old consumes YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram, and Netflix. Interesting. And welcome to the show, Alfredo. Alfredo says, getting Amazon and Twitch working together might take a while for cross-promoting. That would be pretty powerful considering the community that's built around Twitch. But Rob, let's talk a little bit about those dynamics. So Jay's got a 16-year-old and a 20-year-old. Ursula's got teens herself, or preteens, I guess. 12 and 10 is preteen. Right. So they are watching YouTube. YouTube is the one that's in there, but also Netflix, also Twitch, Instagram. Still haven't heard Facebook for anyone under the age of like 21 yet. Where does Facebook work into the brand discussion when it comes to influence? And by the way, welcome Marcus Podolchik and Avery Ratz from Israel.
Hey,
thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it. Where's Facebook right now in this overall food chain when it comes to influence? Because we know that Facebook is like the big powerhouse in the room. Their ads platform is fantastic. But when it comes to buying decisions, buying power, what's up with Facebook?
Well, so maybe that explains why they put such an emphasis on personal videos. Yeah, I mean, you and I talked about this, or I've talked about this on several episodes, that it's just weird when you go to the Facebook Live map and you see traditional broadcasters, the mainstream media, CNN, and all the local affiliates and network affiliates, and then you see personal streams. But what you don't see are kind of middle shows like the one that we're producing now or anything like that. So there's this void. So I guess the point is maybe Facebook understands that, hey, it just isn't there yet for being purposeful for brands. So maybe that's why they're focusing on trying to create a niche for personal branding, or I don't know.
I think something that is not often talked about, and Avery's a Facebook ads guy, so I highly recommend following Avery if you're interested in Facebook ads. He does a phenomenal job. He's also got a course. Avery, drop your course in here for those that are looking to understand more about Facebook ads. But he says that Facebook's audience insights claim that 20% of their active users are 18 to 24. So maybe that's true. Maybe that's the case. But I talked to, what's that? He said 20% of active users, this is Facebook's number or Facebook's data. They say that 20% of their active users are 18 to 24. I mean, I can open up Insights and take a look at those exact numbers, but I would
Right.
still argue that it's above 35, maybe even 40 at this point, the majority. I'd say between like 35 and 55,
Right.
they'd have a big chunk there. Jay Garrett.
Well, so I
just
guess
wanna read-
in pulling this
Go
back,
ahead.
pulling this back to the topic of platforms that are useful for brands, I think I haven't seen a lot of challenge to what we've talked about. I mean, it really seems like it almost is like an audience validation that between Amazon to deliver the products that you've decided on, YouTube and Instagram to be able to make your buying decision, and Facebook. I mean, it's interesting that we haven't had any pushback from anybody in the audience that I've seen that says, "Oh no, I made a buying decision because of Facebook." Now, I mean, the closest I saw was Jenny Quinn saying that she got a lot of her she made a lot of her buying decisions because of her friends, but she didn't necessarily say whether they were geographically close friends or whether they were Facebook friends.
Good point. Jenny Q, answer that question if you wish. Ursula says, my 12-year-old daughter only has Snapchat for social media. And let me tell you, she watches all the brand stories and is totally influenced by them. She told me about some ESPN story she saw the other day. Jay Garrett says, both of my boys say they have no idea as to why they would ever join Facebook. It is only a place where old people do stuff, and most of their friends don't want to be with old people.
Right. Well, that kind of validates what my son said.
So, again, the question is for those of you watching, Roberto Blake, thank you for joining us. Chris Velarde, thank you for joining us. Where are you getting influenced to purchase a product? Remember, influence is different than the actual point of purchase, right? Because I purchased something from Best Buy. I went to a physical location to purchase a camera that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Amy and I did a lot of research and a lot of watching YouTube videos to see this specific camera, the quality of the camera, real-time usage for the exact application that we had. So I wanted to see how other people were using it the way we wanted to use it. And that's how I made the decision.
Well, so that's kind of a bummer and a disconnect, right? Because you'd mentioned earlier that in doing your buying decisions, Roberto's videos influenced a bunch of your decision making in terms of which one. But one would suspect in a typical sales process that Roberto would have been ultimately the one that you buy it for. But obviously, Roberto hasn't set himself up to be a camera shop. So Best Buy ultimately benefited by Roberto's and others, but by Roberto's review, Best Buy got the benefit. So
of course, and listen, but that's nothing new, right? So like Jenny Q Jennifer Quinn watching her show, a friend of hers goes and says, "Hey Jenny, you need to buy this latest mug, Star Wars mug, whatever." Right. She goes and buys it, TJ Maxx. Well, her friend's not going to get the credit for that. I mean, it doesn't really matter. So I think there's that natural, I don't want to say progression, but that there's that natural way of doing things. So like Roberto, yeah, maybe he's not, but if Roberto starts pushing a lot of people to these things, maybe Roberto gets a deal with B&H Photo, and then I'm like, oh, I'm going to go use Roberto's code for B&H Photo.
But that's the problem is that
online.
Roberto doesn't. But to my knowledge, there isn't a way. I mean, other than the admission that you said, I watched Roberto's, Blake's, and others, and then chose to go to Best Buy to buy it. Well, I'm assuming that you went to Best Buy because it was you want it now, and Amazon couldn't deliver it any faster. They probably could have delivered it cheaper, but they may not have been able to deliver it, within 30 minutes.
I actually had it in the cart in Amazon. I checked out. It was going to come in 2 days. I checked Amazon to see if the local store here in Columbus had it. They did. They had it the same day. I canceled my Amazon order and went to Best Buy. That was the whole progression of that purchase.
Right. But like I said, that's a bummer that it's only because you as the purchaser admitted that how you came to that conclusion. But like I said, it's a bummer that we the bummer, and I guess maybe the challenge is how do we rope that in where there's more credit so that Roberto and people like him on YouTube can better say, hey, it's because I said this that the Best Buy resulted in selling this particular brand and camera. And to the degree I think the brands can figure that out quickly, the better off they are. But like I said, the dilemma that a Roberto is going to have is how is he going to be able to show brands, hey, because of these reviews that I'm doing, I'm delivering these types of sales results. There's no possible way, in my knowledge, that he would be able to track his reviews to what the sales outcome is.
So not actual sales, but here's a way of doing it, right? Is setting up some sort of landing page, having a link to that page where people can learn more about that specific camera, or a gear page. Like I have a gear page with all Amazon affiliate links, right? And that helps me personally make a little bit of extra money on the side. But it also helps individuals who are always asking me, what camera are you using? What microphone are you using? What this you're using? What that you're using? I put it up on my gear page, and it allows people to check it out. If they click on buy, I get 3% of whatever the profit is. It's nothing major, but it's a little something, right? Right. Now, if I want to, I can go ahead and track all of those clicks with Google Analytics and say, hey, Tony, look, 10 people clicked on buy on my website from my video. I mean, you can do it. I don't know how accurate that will be. And of course, that also won't track those that went and bought it in a store. That won't track those that went and researched it separate from my video, didn't click my links. But, it's one way of doing it. And I'd love to hear how some others are checking it out.
Well, so let's ask this. Hopefully Ursula's still in here, because we've been talking about tangible consumer products, which I guess is timely because of CES, right? But for a huge amount of Fortune 500 companies, they don't necessarily sell and manufacture consumer electronics. Ursula works for SAP. They sell software. So how does that fit in? If you're a major software company, what's the best way to convince businesses to purchase their hybrid software or other types of software? I mean, I think that's really where the SAPs of the world are looking for relevance in live video. Is camera sales are probably a real easy one to understand, but when it comes to things that are more complex and intangible, like software or training courses or whatever, how do you draw relevance in social media for companies like that? I mean, it's a rhetorical question, but that's a
great
challenge.
question. Avery Rat says that this has been an issue forever for big consumer brands. How does anyone track how well Febreze or Tide sells from a commercial? Target isn't asking people which commercial they watch. 100% agree with you on that. Absolutely. So it's the same thing with outdoor advertising, like billboards. Same thing with television commercials. I mean, those are two of the I'm using TV as a non-digital form. Let's just say it's not social, right? So it's a very good question. Let's see. Roberto says YouTube, Facebook, and email get me to Amazon and B&H Photo. He also says he has a kit and he has links in his YouTube videos for Amazon, B&H Photo, etc.
Drop them in the chat.
You're right about losing out on local. If local can work with influencers, it would be a win-win.
Right.
Let's see.
Well, so
Ursula
I guess
says yes.
no. I want to hear what Ursula said. Go ahead and say it.
So Ursula said, how do you track your awareness efforts to pipeline when a third party sells your software?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, one of the things that Ursula and I have talked about is, the storytelling aspect of it. I mean, I think before I met Ursula, I had always, as a small business owner, assumed that SAP products were way beyond my needs. That in order to be able to kind of start with an SAP platform of any sort, I would be looking at a $50,000 to $100,000 purchase, which was something that was out of consideration. But it's only through working with Ursula and her team that I realized that, what, they actually do have products and services that are geared towards small business. I think at the end of the day, one of the things that we've seen is, tying you and Roberto back together, is that, you and Roberto are similar in what you do for your jobs, right? You're both in video, so it makes sense that you would choose a friend to, because you have the know, like, and trust factor with Roberto. So you're already kind of have the your shield down with respect to honoring his opinion. You don't feel like you're getting conned when Roberto's saying something, because you know him, you've spent time with him, and you know that he's to be trusted on certain things. So those certain things for you would be technology, cameras, and things like that. But you may not necessarily trust Roberto's opinion on, I don't know, heart disease.
Very true.
Maybe Roberto knows more about heart disease than I'm letting him know about. But the point is because you and Roberto or it's going to get loud, but we're already in similar circles. That kind of accommodated your buy decision. So for software, I think one of the better ways to sell it, if you're a software company and you're looking to sell a small business software product, I would suspect that the best way to sell it is through example, and it's to highlight the small business owners that are using your product and showcasing them, saying, okay, what did you have before? What do you use? What product are you using now, and how did that benefit you? And rinse and repeat that story over and over and over and over and over again, and build community off of it. I mean,
these are all solid. These are solid questions. I want to get to a couple of the comments and then close out the show. But Allison, friend of mine over at Zoom, thanks for watching, Allison. She says YouTube is her favorite or is her go-to for reviews, although other channels such as Instagram might influence me to do outside research. I noticed that I don't go looking for product suggestions on Instagram, but am influenced when friends or family members post about something they like. I'm not actively looking for reviews like I would on YouTube, but social media certainly has an aspect. So that brings me into this question, which is perfect, and why I saved this comment for last, because there is the age-old question. Age-old meaning, a couple years, couple months, couple days. Intentional versus disruptive. This is something Amy and I talk about constantly. This is something that we deal with our customers all the time as well. Is it more important or is it more valuable to your brand to be intentional or disruptive? And so live video has become very disruptive, hyper disruptive, right? Oh my God, someone went live. I need to go watch it. Oh my God, this brand is going to choke a watermelon out with elastic bands. I need to go watch that. If you don't know what I'm referring to, it's the BuzzFeed video that is the viral sensation, but it was a live video. So are we striving for intention or are we striving for disruption? And I think, and again, in the context of this discussion, not in the context of disrupting industries, I'm talking about disrupting someone's newsfeed, right? Am I on my phone scrolling through Facebook saying, oh, look at that video. I stumbled across it because Facebook decided they were going to show me that. Or would I rather someone pulls out the phone and searches for Roberto Blake's camera kit or whatever, Sony A7S II, search for it, find on YouTube and say, oh, there it is. Like that video was made specifically because I searched for it. And so that's the discussion we're looking at right now. Right? Here's my thought. Social platforms are great at disrupting and getting in front of you when you're not expecting it. but it's
Right.
also just that. You're not always expecting it. This is truly why Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of these social platforms need to sell ads, because there's really no other way for them to serve you exactly what you want to see without that ads platform. I'm a true believer in that. So you need to be invested fully in paid social if you want that to work. There's an entirely different reason that YouTube and Google are paying creators, because they know people are searching for it. It's inbound, it's coming at them. People are using it to say, I want to see a video about XYZ. Jenny Quinn says, why choose? Can a brand accomplish both? Of course, I think both should be in your marketing mix.
I agree.
This show right here is a disruptive show. It's popping up. You guys are choosing to see it because it's maybe a topic that interests you. But if this topic didn't interest you, there would be nobody here, or there would be none of you here. Now, if you were searching for this in YouTube, the likelihood of you watching it to its entirety is way better than you watching it to its entirety here on Facebook. And that is the question. That is a great question, Jenny. How do we combine both for our marketing efforts? How do we combine both of these things to say, hey, we are influencing people to buy our product, to buy our service, to buy whatever it is?
But you almost need to have, to your point, you almost need to have both, right? You need to be intentional because you need to be able to show consistency and build awareness that you even are doing video, right? So by doing things regularly, you then accommodate the consumers because there's an expectation that you have it and that it exists. And I think
that's exactly the point.
Well, yeah, it's by doing intentional content that you've got a better shot at being able to get more value out of disruptive content. Because if people don't know that you exist, you always have that one hit wonder. Charlie bit my finger.
Absolutely.
And then it's done.
Yep.
So this is a good discussion today.
I think that's a great point to kind of close off here, is on this intentional versus disruptive. So for those of you watching the show and that have tuned in for the length of the show, I thank you. And I thank you for taking time out of your day where maybe this was disruptive for you and it popped up on your newsfeed and you stayed through till the end. Much appreciated. And for those of you that searched us out or that know about us and subscribe, I thank you as well. But I want you to think on this question, because we're going to leave it and we will come back to it. I think next week, when we have the show next week, which by the way, we are every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, I want you to think about this for a second, okay? Are you striving for intention or disruption? And there's no wrong answer, but if you know the answer to that question and what your goals and strategies are, it'll help you better to find the platforms that will influence your audience. Is your audience searching for you, or are they just showing up? Okay. So retention numbers are very, very important. And I think retention is a very key indicator. And again, being with a YouTuber in my life now, I'm looking at these retention numbers, and if someone's getting 50% retention, that's crazy. That's a great number. Yep. But think about it in a disruptive sense. If someone's watching only 50% of this video, they may lose. A lot of what we're talking about here, and that's a great point, Rob. Intention leads disruption. If we're here consistently every week, intentionally, right, and eventually you subscribe, which now that becomes an intentional view, you could say that it leads to some disruption that might lead to intention. So it all ties in. You never know. Right. I mean, listen.
Well, I think that's a good point. I mean, this show is what, episode 4?
4, brand new.
Yeah, and we didn't. That's the thing is that's the beauty of live to us, is it is a learning process. I think the cool thing from an audience perspective is that it's a built-in expectation that you don't have to be perfect on live video, particularly YouTube videos. I don't feel like I'm Mariah Carey getting ready to perform, and then everything goes wrong. Because you know what, if what happened to Mariah Carey happened on my show, in a similar context, there wouldn't be the the outburst or whatever, because there's an expectation for Mariah Carey to nail it right, and she's paid millions of dollars, and this network has paid her all this. They should have got it right, and then they didn't. Well, I think we get much more of a leash in terms of failing, because everybody knows that we're trying new things. Today we're trying 1080p on YouTube and 720 on Facebook. So there's that risk that that I technically do something wrong and crash the system. Well,
Yeah.
as of right now, it didn't happen, but that to me, I think is one of the cool things about live, and we're doing this intentionally. As soon as I finish the broadcast that I'm on, I'll take you right now. So you and I are doing the show intentionally every single week, and and because we're doing it every week, we've got a better shot at being disruptive through that course.
Absolutely. It is a great, great question. I want you all to think about it. Thank you, Avery, Allison, Rob, Haley, Jennifer Quinn, Roberto Blake, Ursula Ringham, Marcus Podolchik, Brian Fanzo, Amy Schmidauer, Matt Crane, Nick Rishwain, Sunday,
Hey, Nick.
Dr. Finch, Tara, Alexander, KP Kelly, Sam Gonzalez, Jason Yarborough, Nazim Beltran, Patricia Summer, Jay Garrett, Mike Sheehan. Thank you for watching the show today and for being here live and interacting with us. And, really this show is an interactive show. And for those of you that missed it and want to watch it again, go ahead and watch it here on Facebook or on YouTube. But this is also going to be on the podcast, the Brand Boost podcast, so you can listen to it there, whether you're driving into work or whether you're sitting in your office. If you can't bring the video up, be sure to listen to it there, brandboostcast.com. Rob, it's always a pleasure.
Always. Everyone, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you.
We will see you all next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Again, this is Brand Matters Live, episode 4 with Vincenzo Landino and Rob Hicks. Have yourself an amazing rest of the week.